everyone. Today, I want to explore a simple but powerful question. How does faith work? When we hear the word faith, many of us think immediately of religion, and yes, faith is a key part of many spiritual traditions. But faith is even bigger than that. Faith touches every part of our lives, whether it's trusting in a dream, believing in a relationship, or hoping for a better tomorrow. So how does faith actually work? Of course, here's a full expansion of the idea of faith begins with belief, into about 1006, 100 words without any headings, as you asked. Faith begins with belief. At its very core, faith cannot exist without a deep-rooted belief in something that is not immediately visible or provable. Belief is the seed from which faith grows, and without belief, there can be no foundation for the endurance and trust that faith demands. When we speak about faith, whether in a religious, personal, or even professional context, we are ultimately talking about belief first. It is belief that ignites the heart and mind to step into the unknown, to hold onto a vision even when all external evidence seems to point otherwise. Belief is an internal conviction. It is the unwavering sense that something is real, true, and worthy of trust, even in the absence of physical proof. Consider, for example, a scientist working on a cure for a disease. Before any experiments succeed, before any tests yield results, that scientist must first believe that a cure is possible. If there were no belief in the possibility, there would be no research, no experimentation, no relentless pursuit. Belief precedes discovery. Similarly, a young artist believing in their ability to create, even before a single work is admired or praised, is an act of profound faith. Faith is more than a feeling. It is a deliberate stance, a choice to believe even when circumstances are difficult, even when logic and reasoning scream otherwise. Belief is the quiet whisper that says, "It is possible," when fear says, "It is not." Without belief, faith has no footing. It is belief that steadies the soul against the winds of doubt, against the tides of uncertainty. Often, belief is not something that happens automatically. It is something we cultivate. For many, belief must be nurtured carefully, like a tender plant. Life's disappointments, hardships, and failures often erode our willingness to believe. Cynicism creeps in, skepticism becomes easier, and it feels safer to protect ourselves from hope. Yet faith demands that we allow belief to take root again and again. It asks us to trust not only in what we see, but also in what we cannot see yet. There is a difference between blind belief and intentional belief. Faith does not ask us to be ignorant or foolish. It invites us to engage our whole being, our mind, heart, and soul in believing wisely. Faith calls for thoughtful belief, where we examine, reflect, and then choose to believe despite the lack of full proof. It's not a denial of reality, rather, it's a belief in a deeper reality, one that might not yet be visible, but is nonetheless real. Belief is powerful because it changes how we see everything. When we believe in a goal, our actions align toward achieving it. Our thoughts, our decisions, even our endurance, all of these are shaped by what we believe to be true. A person who believes they are capable will approach challenges differently from someone who doubts their worth. Belief shapes perception, and perception shapes reality. This is why faith, beginning with belief, has such transformative power. Think of historical figures who changed the course of human history. Almost all of them operated from a place of deep belief. Martin Luther King Jr. believed in a future where people would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. His belief fueled his faith in that vision, even in the face of brutal opposition and seemingly impossible odds. His actions, his perseverance, and ultimately his impact were all born from the simple but profound beginning: he believed it was possible. In personal life, belief plays an equally critical role. Relationships, for example, are built on belief. We believe in each other's character, in each other's love, in the promises we make to one another. Without belief, relationships crumble under the weight of suspicion and doubt. Faith in a relationship is sustained by continual belief, belief that we are loved, that we are valued, that the bond we share is meaningful and resilient. Belief also fuels personal growth. When someone believes they can change, learn, or improve, they are more likely to invest the time and effort needed to make it happen. Without belief in personal growth, individuals stagnate, trapped by a narrative that says they are incapable of transformation. Faith in oneself starts with the belief that no matter the failures or past mistakes, growth is possible. Moreover, belief is often the beginning of hope. Hope is the emotional counterpart to belief. It is belief looking toward the future. Hope says, because I believe, I also expect good things to come. When belief is lost, hope soon follows. Without hope, despair takes root. This is why faith is so critical to human survival and flourishing. It keeps us anchored when life becomes stormy. It provides a lighthouse in the darkness, guiding us not by sight, but by belief in the light's existence. Faith also begins with belief because belief invites vulnerability. To believe is to admit that we don't have all the answers, that there is much outside our control. It is easier in many ways to be cynical. Cynicism feels safe. It keeps expectations low and shields us from disappointment. But faith calls for courage, the courage to believe knowing full well that things might not go as planned, that we might get hurt, that we might face setbacks. Faith says, even so, I will believe. And it is precisely this courage that makes faith such a powerful force. Belief is contagious. When one person believes deeply, it has the power to inspire belief in others. Communities are built around shared beliefs, and great movements start with a handful of people who choose to believe when no one else does. A leader's belief in a vision can awaken an entire generation's faith in a cause. A parent's belief in a child's potential can shape that child's whole future. Belief spreads, and as it spreads, it multiplies faith across lives, communities, and even nations. In spiritual contexts, belief is especially profound. Faith in God, for instance, begins with the belief that God exists and that He is good, even when we do not fully understand His ways. Spiritual faith requires us to believe in promises that are not always fulfilled on our timeline, to trust in a plan greater than our own comprehension. Such faith is sustained by daily acts of belief, prayer, reflection, service, and surrender. Every act of spiritual devotion is an act of belief first, and faith deepens each time we choose to believe again. Interestingly, belief often precedes understanding. We often think that once we understand something, we will then believe it. But in matters of faith, it is frequently the other way around. We must first believe enough to open our hearts and minds, and through that openness, deeper understanding emerges over time. Faith does not wait for all the answers to be revealed. It believes first, walks forward, and trusts that clarity will come as needed. Belief also demands imagination. It asks us to picture possibilities beyond what is currently visible. Every invention, every work of art, every innovation began with someone believing in something that had not yet come into existence. It is through belief that we tap into creativity, innovation, and resilience. Faith is in many ways the imagination of the spirit, the ability to envision a better world, a better self, a better future, and to act in alignment with that vision. Despite its power, belief is fragile. It must be protected, fed, and renewed regularly. Negative experiences, prolonged hardships, and betrayals can all erode belief. This is why communities of faith, supportive friendships, mentors, and personal disciplines are so important. They help nourish belief when it feels weak. Encouragement, testimony, shared vision. These all help rekindle belief when life's hardships threaten to snuff it out. At times, belief must be a deliberate decision, not a spontaneous feeling. Feelings fluctuate. Some days belief comes easily, on others it feels like lifting a heavy weight. True faith persists through the ups and downs. It says, today, even if I don't feel it, I will choose to believe. That choice, repeated day after day, strengthens faith until it becomes a solid foundation rather than a fleeting emotion. In the end, faith begins with belief because belief is the first step into the unknown. It is belief that dares to say, I don't have all the answers, but I will trust anyway. It is belief that enables us to move forward without guarantees. It is belief that lights the first candle in the darkness, that plants the first seed in barren soil, that speaks the first word of hope into a broken world. Faith cannot live without belief, and belief, though small and sometimes trembling, carries within it the immense power to change lives, to shape destinies, and to move mountains. Thus, when we ask how faith works, we must first return to this simple, profound truth. It begins with belief. Everything else, action, perseverance, hope, resilience, flows from that first act of trust. To nurture faith, we must guard and nurture belief. In a world that often invites doubt and discouragement, to believe is an act of defiance, of courage, of vision. It is the starting place of every great journey and every great transformation, and it is in belief that the miracle of faith truly begins. Would you also like me to create a slightly asterisk, more poetic version asterisk, or one that feels a bit more asterisk, philosophical or emotional asterisk, depending on your needs? Of course, here's an asterisk expanded version asterisk of the idea asterisk. Faith requires action asterisk into about asterisk 1006 words asterisk without any headings, just continuous, flowing writing as you asked. Faith requires action. It is not enough to simply hold belief in our hearts. If that belief does not move us, shape us, and cause us to act, it remains incomplete. Faith is dynamic, not static. It is alive, a living force that must find expression through what we do, not merely what we say or think. A person may claim to have faith, but until that faith manifests in choices, behaviors, and sacrifices, it remains theoretical, not real. Faith without action is like a seed that is never planted. It holds potential but bears no fruit. True faith propels us forward. It demands movement, decision, and commitment. Believing that a bridge can hold your weight is not real faith until you actually step onto the bridge. You may admire it from afar, study its structure, and even speak highly of its design, but faith requires you to walk across. In life, many people stop short of action. They may believe in a dream, believe in a cause, believe in a higher purpose, but they hesitate when action is required. Fear, doubt, laziness, or the comfort of routine can hold them back. Yet faith, when it is genuine, insists on action. It calls us to put our belief to the test through movement. Action is the evidence of faith. Without it, belief remains hidden, unverifiable, and powerless. Faith is not proven by mere words or feelings. It is revealed in deeds. A person who believes in kindness shows it through acts of compassion. A person who believes in justice fights for the oppressed. A person who believes in a personal dream works relentlessly toward it. Faith without action is like a fire that produces no warmth, a river that carries no water, a song that is never sung. It is through action that faith becomes visible and real, both to ourselves and to the world around us. Taking action on faith often requires courage. Acting before all the answers are available, before success is guaranteed, is intimidating. It asks us to step into uncertainty, to move without complete clarity, to risk failure. Yet this is the very nature of faith. If certainty were guaranteed, no faith would be needed. Faith demands that we act even when the outcome is not assured. It is easy to wait until everything seems safe and clear, but that is not faith. That is calculation. Faith dares to move when others are still frozen in fear. Action also transforms faith from a passive hope into a creative force. When we act on what we believe, we cooperate with the forces of change. We participate in bringing about what we hope for. Faith says, I will not merely wish for change, I will work for it. It does not sit on the sidelines waiting for miracles. It becomes part of the miracle by moving, building, striving. Faith calls us to live as if the things we believe are already becoming reality. Each action we take in faith brings us a step closer to the fulfillment of our vision. Moreover, faith-driven action builds momentum. The first step is often the hardest. Taking that initial leap of faith can feel overwhelming, but once we move, momentum begins to build. Small actions grow into larger ones. Early efforts, even if imperfect, pave the way for greater progress. Faith strengthens as it is exercised. Each act of faith reinforces our confidence, making the next act a little easier. The journey of 1,000 miles truly does begin with a single step, and that step taken in faith is the catalyst for the entire journey. Importantly, faith that requires action does not promise immediate results. Sometimes the fruits of faithful action are delayed. We may work diligently toward a goal and see no visible progress for a long time. This can be discouraging, but it is here that the character of faith is most tested and most refined. Faith acts not only in the hope of immediate reward, but also in the trust that perseverance will eventually yield fruit. Farmers plant seeds in faith, knowing that months of unseen growth must occur underground before any harvest appears. Similarly, those who act in faith must be patient, trusting that their efforts are not in vain. Acting in faith often means acting contrary to popular opinion. The path of faith is not always the popular path. Sometimes it involves pursuing a calling that others do not understand. Sometimes it means standing firm on principles when compromise would be easier. Faith-driven action is often lonely, requiring inner conviction strong enough to withstand external pressure. Yet it is precisely this kind of action that has historically led to the most significant breakthroughs and transformations. The greatest advancements, whether in human rights, science, or personal growth, have often come from individuals who are willing to act on faith when others would not. Faith that requires action also demands perseverance through failure. Acting in faith does not guarantee that every effort will succeed immediately. Failure is often a part of the journey. However, failure does not invalidate faith. Instead, it provides an opportunity for growth, learning, and deeper trust. Each setback becomes a stepping stone for future success. Faithful action embraces the possibility of failure without being defined by it. It persists, adapts, and continues moving forward even when the way is hard. Faithful action also creates opportunities for others. When we act on our faith, we inspire and enable others to do the same. Our courage empowers others to find their own courage. Our perseverance gives others a reason to keep going. Our victories, born of faithful action, become a testament to the power of belief coupled with effort. By acting in faith, we not only advance our own lives, but also contribute to the greater good, creating ripples of positive impact far beyond what we can see. Moreover, action in faith is not about grand gestures alone. It is found in the small daily acts of obedience, kindness, and courage. Faithful action can mean choosing integrity in a difficult moment, offering encouragement to a struggling friend, showing up consistently for responsibilities, or making small sacrifices for a greater purpose. These seemingly small acts, when motivated by faith, accumulate into a life of meaning and significance. It is not always the spectacular that defines faithful action, but the consistent. Faith requires action because belief without movement dies. It withers under the weight of inaction. Dreams fade, relationships falter, and opportunities are lost when we fail to act on what we believe. Faith must be lived, not just imagined. Action is the breath that keeps faith alive. Without it, faith becomes nothing more than empty sentiment. Action grounded in faith also transforms the individual. As we act in faith, we discover new strengths within ourselves. We find resilience we did not know we possessed, creativity we had never tapped into, and courage we had never called forth. Faithful action stretches us, grows us, and shapes us into who we are meant to become. It is through action that we are refined and prepared for greater challenges and greater opportunities. Faith, therefore, is a partnership between belief and action. Belief initiates faith, but action sustains it. Without belief, there is no starting point. Without action, there is no progress. Together, belief and action create a living faith that is capable of moving mountains, healing wounds, building dreams, and transforming lives. This principle is echoed across all great teachings and wisdom traditions. In religious contexts, faith is always tied to works. Believers are called not only to hold beliefs inwardly, but to express them outwardly through love, service, and obedience. In personal development, success is tied not only to vision, but to hard work and perseverance. Across all walks of life, the message is clear. Faith without action is incomplete. At the heart of it, acting in faith is an act of love. It is a way of saying, I love this vision, this cause, this person, this purpose enough to move toward it, to invest in it, to risk for it. Love and faith are intertwined, and both are proven by what we are willing to do, not just what we are willing to feel. Faith that requires action is faith that loves deeply enough to work, to sacrifice, to endure. Finally, acting in faith brings us into alignment with the deeper currents of life. It connects us with purpose, with destiny, with the possibilities that lie beyond the horizon. Each act of faith is a statement, a declaration that life is more than what is seen, that we are more than what we have been, and that the future is brighter than the present. It is a leap, a dance, a commitment, and it all begins when we choose to move, not perfectly, not fearlessly, but faithfully. Thus, faith requires action, not because action earns faith, but because action completes it. Because action turns silent belief into a living force that reshapes the world. Because without action, faith is just a beautiful idea waiting for a chance to live, and when faith is given life through our deeds, it becomes unstoppable, it becomes transformative, it becomes the force that changes everything. Would you also like a version that's even ***, more emotional or storytelling? Driven ***, if you plan to use this for a speech or a powerful article, of course. Here's a full ***, expanded version ***, of ***. Faith grows through challenges in about **1006. 100 words *** with a continuous, flowing style and ***, no headings *** as you asked. Faith grows through challenges. It is in the hard places, the valleys of life, the moments of deep uncertainty, that faith is stretched, tested, and ultimately strengthened. Easy circumstances do not demand much from us. When everything goes according to plan, when blessings flow without interruption, faith is often taken for granted. It rests quietly, unchallenged and unexamined. But when adversity strikes, when the ground beneath our feet shakes and the sky overhead darkens, that is when faith is called into action. It is during these seasons of hardship that faith moves from being a simple concept to becoming a living, breathing force within us. Challenges reveal the true nature of our faith. Anyone can claim belief when life is smooth, but true faith is demonstrated in the storm. When plans unravel, when prayers seem unanswered, when loss hits like a sudden wave, it is then that we discover whether our faith was rooted deeply or merely resting on the surface. The trials of life strip away the superficial, exposing the foundation upon which we stand. In these moments, faith either withers or it grows. And for those who choose to cling to belief despite the evidence to the contrary, faith does not just survive, it deepens and becomes more resilient. It is often said that a tree's roots grow deeper during times of drought, stretching farther and pushing harder into the soil in search of water. Similarly, our faith pushes deeper during times of trial. When comfort is removed and certainty is shaken, we are forced to seek a source of strength beyond ourselves. We search, we question, we wrestle with doubt, and in that struggle, faith finds its footing in something more solid, something that cannot be taken away by circumstance. It is through challenge that faith moves from theory into reality, from convenience into conviction. Challenges force us to confront our weaknesses, and in doing so, they offer the opportunity for faith to grow stronger. When we come face to face with our limitations, our fears, and our helplessness, we realize how much we truly depend on faith. It is not our strength, but our surrender that often leads to the greatest growth. When we admit that we cannot control everything, that we are not the masters of our fate, we make room for faith to fill the spaces left empty by our own insufficiency. Faith thrives where pride dies, and challenges have a way of humbling us enough to make that transformation possible. Moreover, challenges purify our faith. Just as gold is refined by fire, burning away impurities and leaving behind something more precious, faith is refined through the fires of difficulty. In easy times, our faith may be mixed with selfish motives, with assumptions about what we deserve or expectations of how life should unfold. But when hardship comes, those illusions are burned away. We are left with something purer, simpler, and more enduring, a faith that trusts not in outcomes, but in something greater than outcomes, a faith that clings not to blessings, but to the one who gives them. Faith also grows through challenges because challenges teach us perseverance. Enduring through hardship builds spiritual endurance in much the same way that physical endurance is built through strain and exertion. No athlete grows stronger by avoiding pain or difficulty. Strength is forged by pushing through it. Likewise, faith grows not by avoiding hardship, but by walking through it with courage and hope. Each challenge we endure enlarges our capacity for faith, teaching us that we can survive what we once thought would destroy us, and that we can trust even when we do not understand. Another way challenges strengthen faith is by teaching us dependence on something beyond ourselves. When life is easy, we may be tempted to rely on our own wisdom, our own plans, our own resources. Difficulty strips away that illusion. It shows us how limited our control truly is. In those humbling moments, we learn to lean not on our own understanding, but on something far greater. Trusting when we cannot see, when we do not have the answers, when we are walking through darkness with only the faintest light, that is where faith becomes real. It ceases to be an intellectual idea and becomes a daily practice, a necessary sustenance. It is also through challenges that we often encounter unexpected grace. In the midst of trials, when we reach the end of ourselves, we often find that we are carried in ways we could not have anticipated. Strength comes when we least expect it. Comfort arrives in surprising forms. Help appears from unlikely sources. These moments teach us that we are not alone, that there is a larger story unfolding, one that is shaped by love and purpose, even when we cannot immediately perceive it. Challenges open our eyes to the hidden blessings that easy times often obscure. Furthermore, challenges deepen our empathy and compassion. Faith grown in suffering is a faith that sees the suffering of others with new eyes. It becomes more tender, more patient, more kind. Those who have walked through pain with faith intact understand the pain of others more deeply. They carry within them a wisdom, a gentleness, a grace that only comes from having been refined by fire. Their faith is not just personal, it becomes a gift they offer to the world around them. Their lives bear witness to the possibility of hope in the midst of hardship, offering encouragement to those still in the thick of their own struggles. Challenges also teach us the difference between temporary happiness and true joy. When faith is tested, we learn that joy is not dependent on external circumstances. Joy, rooted in faith, remains even when happiness fades. It is a deep, abiding presence that persists through tears and disappointment. It is not a denial of pain, but a profound assurance that pain does not have the final word. Joy born out of faith is a fierce, stubborn thing, a light that refuses to be extinguished by the darkness around it. And it is through challenges that this kind of joy is discovered and nurtured. Over time, the accumulated experience of facing challenges with faith builds a reservoir of trust. Each challenge overcome becomes a testimony, a memory stone, a reminder that faith held before and can hold again. With each trial, our confidence grows, not necessarily in ourselves, but in the reliability of the one we trust. We learn that what seemed impossible was survivable, that what felt unbearable was, in fact, bearable. We learn that faith is enough, not because life always turns out the way we hoped, but because faith sustains us no matter how life unfolds. Challenges also clarify our values and priorities. When life is stripped down to its essentials, we see more clearly what truly matters. Faith grows as we release the trivial and cling to the eternal. We realize that possessions, status, comfort, these things, while not bad in themselves, are not the foundation of a meaningful life. Faith redirects our hearts toward deeper things: love, purpose, integrity, connection, hope. It roots us in truths that cannot be shaken by the shifting sands of circumstance. In the end, faith grown through challenges becomes a testimony not only to ourselves but to others. Our perseverance, our resilience, our refusal to give up speaks loudly. It becomes a beacon for those who are weary and afraid. Our lives tell a story that it is possible to endure, to believe, to hope even when hope seems foolish. And in telling that story, we invite others to find their own faith, to take their own steps into trust. Thus, faith grows through challenges. It is not crushed by hardship. It is refined. It is not extinguished by adversity. It is ignited. Challenges do not destroy faith when we hold fast. They deepen it, strengthen it, and anchor it more firmly. Every tear shed, every fear faced, every moment of doubt wrestled through, becomes part of the soil in which our faith grows. And as it grows, it bears fruit, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. The journey through challenges is not easy. It is marked by struggle, by questions, by moments of deep uncertainty. But it is also marked by profound beauty, the beauty of discovering strength we did not know we had, of encountering grace in unexpected places, of finding that faith can survive, even thrive, in the harshest of conditions. It is through these very challenges that faith becomes unshakable, not because it is untouched by hardship, but because it has endured it and emerged stronger. Faith grown through challenges is the kind of faith that endures. It does not depend on circumstances. It does not waver with the winds of fortune. It is steadfast, courageous, and alive. It becomes a foundation that can bear the weight of life's heaviest burdens and still remain standing. It is a faith that knows not just about hope, but knows hope intimately because it has clung to hope in the darkest hours. In every life, challenges will come. They are inevitable, but they are not merely obstacles. They are opportunities. Opportunities for faith to grow deeper, stronger, and more radiant. Opportunities for us to become who we are meant to be. And as we walk through these challenges with faith, we find that we are not walking alone. We are accompanied, sustained, and ultimately transformed. Thus, faith grows through challenges. It is shaped by them, strengthened by them, and ultimately made beautiful by them. And it is in this growth, born of hardship, that faith becomes one of the most powerful forces in our lives, a source of strength, of courage, and of enduring hope. Would you also like a more *** story, driven or motivational speech version *** if you're planning to present this to an audience? I can adapt it depending on how you want to use it. Of course, Here's the asterisk asterisk expanded version asterisk asterisk of asterisk asterisk. Faith relies on trust asterisk asterisk in about asterisk asterisk 1006 words asterisk asterisk in continuous flowing writing without any headings, just as you asked. Faith relies on trust. Without trust, faith cannot survive. It becomes hollow, fragile, and easily broken. Trust is the very core of faith, the invisible thread that binds belief to reality. It is one thing to believe in a concept, to hold an idea in the mind. It is another to trust so deeply that belief becomes the foundation for action, endurance, and hope. Faith without trust is like a bird with no wings. It may look alive for a moment, but it will never soar. It is trust that lifts faith into something living and active, something that can carry us through the uncertainties and storms of life. Trust requires surrender. It calls us to release our need for total control, to let go of the constant demand for certainty, and to accept that we will not always have every answer, every proof, or every guarantee. Faith asks us to believe in something bigger than ourselves, something often unseen, and trust demands that we live according to that belief, even when fear whispers doubts into our ears. This surrender is not weakness, it is strength of a deeper kind, the strength to move forward even when the path is hidden, the strength to believe in the goodness of what we cannot yet see. There is a profound vulnerability in trust. To trust is to open oneself to the possibility of disappointment, to accept risk. We trust friends with our secrets, lovers with our hearts, leaders with our hopes. In every case, there is the chance that trust could be betrayed. Yet without trust, relationships cannot grow, dreams cannot be pursued, and faith cannot flourish. Faith relies on trust because without it, belief would be paralyzed by fear. Trust says, I choose to move forward even knowing the risks, even knowing that I cannot control the outcome. It is this boldness that allows faith to thrive in a world full of uncertainty. Trust, when tied to faith, is not blind ignorance. It is not a refusal to see reality or acknowledge risks. Rather, it is a conscious decision to believe that something, or someone, is worthy of that trust. It involves discernment and wisdom. In matters of spiritual faith, trust is placed in the character of a divine being, in the belief that goodness, love, and justice are not illusions but ultimate realities. In more personal journeys of faith, faith in dreams, in purposes, in missions, trust is placed in the process, in the meaning behind the struggle, in the value of perseverance, even when rewards seem far away. Faith relies on trust because trust allows us to move forward even when we cannot yet see the destination. When a traveler sets out on a journey guided by a map, they trust that the map is accurate, that the road will eventually lead them to where they want to go. If they doubted the map at every turn, questioning every direction, they would become paralyzed, unable to make progress. In the same way, faith demands that we trust the guidance we have been given, the promises, the values, the vision, and continue walking even when the scenery seems unfamiliar or confusing. Trust fills the gap between where we are and where we hope to be. Faith without trust crumbles at the first sign of trouble. When difficulties arise, when the path becomes rough, it is trust that holds faith together. Trust says, even though I do not understand this situation, even though it hurts, even though I feel afraid, I will hold on. Trust is the glue that keeps faith from falling apart when circumstances challenge our beliefs. It is easy to have faith when everything is going well. True faith, the kind that endures, is only possible because of trust, especially when life becomes painful, confusing, or chaotic. Trust also gives faith its resilience. Life rarely moves in a straight line. Plans falter, dreams are delayed, prayers seem unanswered. In these moments, it is trust that prevents faith from giving up. Trust whispers that delays are not denials, that hardships have purpose, that unseen forces are still at work for good. Without trust, disappointment hardens into cynicism and belief fades into bitterness. With trust, Even setbacks become part of the larger story, part of a process that shapes, strengthens, and prepares us for what lies ahead. Faith relies on trust because trust fuels perseverance. Anyone who has pursued a difficult goal knows that there are moments when the journey feels endless, when motivation wanes and doubts multiply. In these seasons, it is trust that sustains, trust that the effort will be worth it, trust that the unseen progress matters, trust that the dream is still alive, even if it is hidden beneath layers of struggle. Trust keeps our feet moving when the finish line seems invisible. It gives faith the endurance to stay the course. Trust also transforms fear. Fear is natural when we step into the unknown, when we risk something precious, when we dare to hope for something bigger than ourselves, but trust takes that fear and reshapes it. Instead of letting fear stop us, trust uses it as a signal to lean deeper into faith. Fear becomes an invitation to trust more fully, not less. When we acknowledge our fears and still choose to trust, our faith becomes more courageous, more authentic, more powerful. In relationships, faith in others requires trust as well. Whether in friendships, family, or love, faith in another person's character, intentions, and loyalty depends entirely on trust. We believe in them not because they are perfect, but because we trust that their heart is good, that their intentions are true, that their failures will not define them. This kind of relational faith builds deep connections, strong enough to withstand the inevitable trials that every relationship faces. Trust is the bridge that allows faith to travel between two souls, creating bonds of authenticity, vulnerability, and deep love. Similarly, when we place faith in our dreams and ambitions, trust is essential. Every worthwhile pursuit comes with uncertainty. There are no guarantees that a business will succeed, that a work of art will be celebrated, that a calling will bear fruit. Faith that our efforts matter, that our dreams are worth chasing, demands trust, not blind hope, but a decision to believe in the process, to believe that effort, growth, and perseverance will lead somewhere meaningful. Trust energizes our commitment to keep showing up even when visible rewards are slow in coming. Moreover, trust nurtures patience. Faith often requires waiting, waiting for growth, for answers, for opportunities, for healing. Waiting can be excruciating when there is no guarantee of timing or outcome. But trust allows us to wait without despair. Trust says, I believe there is purpose in this delay. I believe that what is meant for me will come in its time. Trust anchors faith during the seasons of waiting, preventing it from decaying into frustration or hopelessness. Trust also invites gratitude. When faith is anchored in trust, we become more grateful even in imperfect circumstances. Instead of resenting what is lacking, we recognize and appreciate what is present. Trust teaches us that we are being guided, cared for, shaped, even when we cannot see the full picture. Gratitude blooms from trust, and gratitude, in turn, strengthens faith, creating a virtuous cycle of hope, contentment, and resilience. Challenges and losses inevitably come to every life. Trust does not deny pain, but offers a way through it. It allows faith to coexist with sorrow, to hold hope even while mourning. Trust believes that redemption is possible, that broken things can be made whole, that light can emerge from darkness. In this way, trust infuses faith with a quiet, stubborn hope that refuses to be extinguished by suffering. Ultimately, trust gives faith its depth. Shallow faith relies on constant validation and quick results. Deep faith rests on trust that does not demand constant reassurance. It is rooted like an old tree, unmoved by changing winds. Deep faith trusts the unseen, accepts mystery, and finds peace even amid unanswered questions. It acknowledges human limitation and embraces divine mystery. It recognizes that we are part of a much larger story, a story whose author can be trusted even when we do not yet understand the plot. The more we practice trust, the stronger our faith becomes. Like a muscle, trust grows through use. Every decision to trust, whether in small daily choices or major life decisions, strengthens our ability to live by faith. Each act of trust reinforces our internal belief that faith is not in vain, that hope is not foolish, that love is not wasted. Over time, this habit of trust forms a resilient, unshakable faith that becomes a guiding force in every aspect of life. Faith relies on trust because trust is what allows us to step into the unknown with confidence. It is what empowers us to believe not only in what is, but in what could be. It is what enables us to risk, to hope, to endure, and to love without guarantees. Without trust, faith collapses under the weight of fear and disappointment. With trust, faith becomes a living, breathing power that carries us through every storm, through every season, through every unknown. Thus, faith and trust are inseparable. They dance together, each strengthening the other. Trust gives faith its hands and feet, allowing it to move and act in the real world. Faith gives trust its spirit, filling it with purpose and direction. Together, they form a force greater than either alone, a force capable of withstanding the fiercest trials and achieving the greatest triumphs. Faith relies on trust, because trust is the soil in which faith takes root and flourishes. It is trust that allows faith to begin, to endure, and to grow into something beautiful and strong. Trust is the silent, steadfast companion that walks with faith through every shadow, every desert, every mountaintop. And in the end, it is trust that enables faith not only to survive, but to soar. Would you also like a ***, slightly more emotional version ***, depending on how you plan to use this speech, article, sermon, etc.? I can adapt it if you'd like, of course. Here's a ***, continuous expansion ***, of ***, faith feeds perseverance, ***, in about *** 1006, 100 words ***, without any headings as you requested. Faith feeds perseverance. It strengthens the will to continue even when everything around seems to call for surrender. It gives the heart courage to endure even when obstacles rise and progress feels painfully slow. Faith and perseverance are bound together like a river and its source. Without faith, perseverance quickly dries up. When challenges come, and they inevitably do, it is faith that nourishes the spirit, keeping the flame of endurance alive against the strong winds of difficulty, doubt, and despair. Faith is the quiet conviction that continuing the journey is worth it, even when there is no immediate proof that success is near. It speaks to the soul when the mind is tired, and it lifts the weary to their feet when they would otherwise stay fallen. Perseverance alone is difficult to sustain. Human willpower can only carry a person so far. In the early stages of any journey, enthusiasm may be enough to fuel persistence. New dreams, fresh excitement, and the adrenaline of possibility make it easier to keep pushing forward. But over time, when the newness fades and reality reveals the cost, perseverance begins to feel heavy. Obstacles mount, progress slows, and failure threatens. It is here, in these critical moments, that faith steps in, not as a denial of hardship, but as a source of unseen strength. Faith reminds us that what we are striving for is meaningful, even if it remains out of reach for now. It nourishes the heart with hope and the mind with resolve, turning endurance into an act of purpose rather than a grim act of desperation. Faith feeds perseverance by providing a reason to keep going beyond what is immediately visible. When circumstances offer little encouragement, when setbacks accumulate, and when tangible results are scarce, faith fills the void with vision. It helps us see beyond the present difficulty to a future that has not yet arrived, but is nonetheless real. It teaches us that every step forward matters, even the smallest ones, even the ones taken through tears and uncertainty. Faith gives perseverance its why, and without a why, perseverance eventually withers. It is not enough to endure suffering or hardship for its own sake. Endurance needs a goal, a belief that the journey is worthwhile. Faith supplies that essential belief. In times of struggle, it is faith that frames challenges not as signs of failure, but as opportunities for growth. Faith shifts the perspective from despair to purpose, from weakness to resilience. It tells us that our current suffering is not in vain, that every difficulty we face is shaping us into the people we are meant to become. With this mindset, perseverance becomes more than stubbornness. It becomes a transformative act, an act of becoming. Faith feeds perseverance by infusing it with meaning. It allows us to embrace the struggle as a necessary and even valuable part of the journey. Moreover, faith feeds perseverance by reinforcing identity. When someone believes deeply in their mission, in their calling, in their values, they are more likely to persevere. Faith in one's purpose creates an inner alignment that withstands external pressures. The individual anchored in faith knows who they are and why they are doing what they do. This internal clarity fortifies them against discouragement. They are less likely to be swayed by criticism, less likely to quit in the face of rejection, and less likely to abandon their path when progress is slow. Faith strengthens the core, and a strong core sustains perseverance through seasons of adversity. Faith also strengthens perseverance by building a foundation of trust. Not just trust in oneself, but trust in the process, trust in the unfolding of events, trust in the unseen hands guiding the journey. When we trust that our efforts matter, even if they are not immediately rewarded, we find the strength to continue working diligently. Trust reassures us that there is a time for planting and a time for harvest, and that today's labor is never wasted even if tomorrow's fruit is yet unseen. Perseverance fed by faith becomes an exercise in trusting the timing, trusting the learning, and trusting that every step, no matter how small, is part of a greater story. Furthermore, faith feeds perseverance by connecting us to a larger narrative. When we view our struggles not as isolated moments of pain, but as chapters in a bigger story of redemption, purpose, and hope, perseverance gains momentum. We are reminded that we are part of something larger than ourselves. Our challenges are not random or meaningless. They are part of a tapestry being woven, one thread at a time. Faith situates our individual perseverance within this broader context, giving us the perspective and encouragement needed to continue. In moments of loneliness, when our efforts feel unseen and unappreciated, faith whispers that our labor is not in vain, that every act of endurance matters in ways we may not yet understand. Faith also feeds perseverance by opening the door to resilience. Resilience is not the absence of hardship, but the ability to recover, to keep moving, to rise again after each fall. Faith teaches that failure is not final, that mistakes are not the end of the story, and that brokenness can be healed. It teaches that after every winter comes a spring, after every night comes a dawn. This belief fuels resilience, which in turn fuels perseverance. When we know deep in our hearts that setbacks are not defeat, we find the courage to persevere again and again. In the face of overwhelming odds, faith-fed perseverance allows us to hold on when logic tells us to let go. It grants a stubborn, sacred defiance against hopelessness. It gives us the audacity to dream beyond our circumstances, to work toward a future that others might call impossible. It strengthens our hands for the hard tasks and steels our minds against discouragement. Perseverance rooted in faith is not passive endurance, it is active hope. It is a daily decision to rise, to move, to strive, fueled not by external validation, but by an inner conviction that the journey is worthwhile. Another way faith feeds perseverance is through the creation of internal peace. When we operate solely through our own strength, perseverance can feel anxious and frantic, driven by fear of failure. Faith replaces anxiety with peace. It assures us that we are not alone, that we are supported, that even if we stumble, we are still on the right path. This peace allows us to persevere with greater patience, with less fear, and with more joy. It transforms the grueling race into a steady walk of trust. Faith, inspired perseverance, is also contagious. When others see someone pressing forward with hope and courage despite difficulties, they are inspired to do the same. In this way, faith-fed perseverance creates a ripple effect. It encourages communities, families, and teams. It shows others what is possible when one refuses to quit. It teaches by example that endurance is not just about strength, but about belief. Belief that there is something worth fighting for, something worth hoping for, something worth waiting for. Faith feeds perseverance by helping us celebrate small victories along the way. It encourages gratitude for progress, no matter how slow. When faith teaches us to see each small step forward as a triumph, perseverance becomes less burdensome. Instead of waiting until the finish line to feel encouraged, faith allows us to find joy in the journey itself. Each obstacle overcome, each day endured, each fear faced becomes a reason for gratitude and a reinforcement of the decision to continue. In times of darkness, when perseverance feels impossible, faith acts as a light that refuses to go out. It does not always illuminate the entire path, but it gives enough light for the next step. And often that is all perseverance requires: enough strength, enough hope, enough vision to take the next step, then the next and the next. Faith does not demand that we see the entire staircase. It only asks that we trust enough to keep climbing. Ultimately, faith transforms perseverance into something beautiful. It lifts it from a mere act of stubbornness into an act of profound courage and love. Faith-fed perseverance is marked not by grim determination alone, but by joy, by peace, by a deep and abiding trust in the goodness of the journey and the worth of the destination. It is perseverance that knows tears, but also knows songs, that knows exhaustion, but also knows renewal. Faith feeds perseverance by giving it life. Without faith, perseverance becomes dry, mechanical, and eventually unsustainable. With faith, perseverance becomes dynamic, vibrant, and deeply human. It becomes an expression of hope, a testament to courage, and a witness to the enduring power of belief. When all is said and done, those who persevere are not necessarily the strongest, the smartest, or the most skilled. Often they are simply those who have enough faith to keep going, enough faith to believe that their efforts matter, enough faith to trust that their journey has purpose, enough faith to endure what must be endured to reach what must be reached. Thus, faith and perseverance are forever linked. Faith feeds perseverance, and perseverance, in turn, strengthens faith. They rise together, each reinforcing the other, carrying us forward through every valley, every mountaintop, and every long, winding road in between. Would you also like me to craft a slightly poetic or motivational speech version of this if you're planning to use it for a special event? I'd be happy to, of course. Here's the full expansion of faith inspires hope in about 1600 words with no headings and written in a continuous, flowing style just as you requested. Faith inspires hope. It breathes life into the human spirit, awakening dreams and stirring the soul to believe in possibilities beyond the present moment. Faith is the seed from which hope grows, the quiet voice that speaks when circumstances are silent, and the steady hand that holds us when everything else seems to fall away. Without faith, hope struggles to survive. It becomes fragile, easily shattered by disappointment and fear. But with faith, hope flourishes, becoming a vibrant and enduring force that carries us through darkness into light, through uncertainty into peace. Faith gives birth to hope because it teaches us that there is something more than what we can see. It reminds us that our present reality is not the full story, that beyond every hardship, every failure, every sorrow, there is a promise of something better. Faith teaches us to lift our eyes from our immediate struggles and to look forward with expectation. It shows us that even when the night is long and the road is hard, the dawn is inevitable. Hope, fed by faith, becomes the assurance that although we may not yet hold what we long for, it is not out of reach. When life becomes difficult and dreams are deferred, it is often tempting to give in to despair. Without faith, the weight of life's trials can crush the spirit, draining away joy, enthusiasm, and vision. Faith acts as a shield against such despair, inspiring hope that transcends circumstances. It whispers that the struggle is temporary, that pain will not have the final word, and that unseen forces are working for good even when everything appears broken. Faith plants hope like a stubborn flower that blooms even in the cracks of suffering. Faith inspires hope by reminding us that we are not alone. It points to a greater reality, a greater presence, a greater love that undergirds all things. In moments when we feel abandoned, forgotten, or invisible, faith breathes hope into our hearts, assuring us that we are seen, known, and valued. This assurance does not erase pain, but it gives it context. It transforms suffering from meaningless agony into a crucible where character is forged and beauty can emerge. Hope, fueled by faith, lifts us from the pit of isolation and despair into the light of connection and purpose. There is a mystery in the way faith nurtures hope. Faith often calls us to believe without seeing, to trust without proof, to hope without guarantees. It invites us into a relationship with the unknown, a journey where certainty is rare but trust is abundant. In this way, hope becomes an act of courage, a declaration that even if the world says otherwise, we will continue to believe in goodness, in redemption, in new beginnings. Faith strengthens the heart to hope even when the evidence seems thin, and by doing so, it teaches us to live bravely, joyfully, and freely. Hope inspired by faith is not passive. It is not merely wishful thinking or naive optimism. It is active, dynamic, and transformative. It propels us to act in ways that align with what we believe is possible. It urges us to build, to create, to heal, to love, even when the results are not immediately visible. Hope causes us to sow seeds even in barren fields, trusting that in time life will spring forth. It compels us to move forward even when every instinct cries out to retreat. Faith-inspired hope is a powerful motivator, fueling resilience, creativity, and perseverance. Faith also inspires hope by giving us a vision of who we can become. It shows us not only what is possible in the world, but what is possible within ourselves. Faith tells us that we are more than our failures, more than our fears, more than our past mistakes. It reveals a vision of growth, transformation, and redemption. This vision plants hope deep within us, empowering us to rise above limitations, to reach for higher ground, and to believe that we can be made new. Hope, born of faith, allows us to imagine a future in which we are stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. When faced with uncertainty about the future, faith again becomes the wellspring of hope. The unknown often brings anxiety, fear, and hesitation. It is easy to become paralyzed by what we cannot control, but faith encourages us to step forward anyway, to trust that the future holds possibilities we cannot yet see. Faith teaches us that the unknown is not to be feared, but embraced as the space where miracles can happen. Hope grows when we trust that the road ahead, though unseen, leads somewhere worth going. Faith also inspires hope by affirming that life has meaning and purpose, even in its most painful moments. Without faith, suffering can seem arbitrary and cruel. But faith teaches that nothing is wasted, that every experience, every trial, every triumph has a role in the greater story of our lives. It assures us that even when we cannot make sense of our circumstances, there is a meaning woven through them. This belief gives rise to hope, hope that our struggles have value, hope that our wounds can be healed, hope that our lives are not random but intentionally crafted works of art. Hope sustained by faith has the power to transform not just individuals but entire communities. When people come together in faith, believing in a shared vision of a better future, hope becomes contagious. It strengthens bonds, inspires collective action, and creates movements of change. Faith-infused hope builds bridges where division once stood, offers forgiveness where resentment once reigned, and brings light to places once dominated by darkness. Communities rooted in hope are resilient, innovative, and compassionate, able to weather storms and rebuild when needed. In personal relationships, faith inspires hope by fostering trust and forgiveness. Relationships inevitably encounter conflict, disappointment, and hurt. Faith calls us to believe in the possibility of reconciliation, healing, and growth. It urges us to hope in the goodness of others, to see beyond their flaws to their potential, and to extend grace even when it is difficult. Hope inspired by faith keeps relationships alive through seasons of struggle, making restoration possible where bitterness might otherwise take root. Faith-inspired hope also offers comfort in the face of mortality. Death, the final unknown, can bring fear and despair, but faith speaks of life beyond death, of a reality greater than what we see. It offers the hope of reunion, of restoration, of a love that is stronger than death itself. This hope does not eliminate grief, but it transforms it. It allows us to mourn with expectation, to grieve with courage, and to face the end of life not with terror but with trust. Moreover, faith inspires hope by cultivating gratitude. When we live with faith, we become more attuned to the blessings that surround us, even amid hardship. Gratitude feeds hope by reminding us of the goodness we have already received and encouraging us to believe that more goodness is yet to come. It shifts our focus from scarcity to abundance, from loss to possibility. Faith teaches us to count our blessings even when they seem few, and hope grows stronger each time we recognize that we are loved, provided for, and sustained. Faith invites us to hope for things beyond our immediate understanding. It opens our hearts to mysteries and miracles, to possibilities that defy human reasoning. It allows us to believe in transformations that seem impossible, in dreams that seem unattainable, and in journeys that seem too daunting. Faith stretches the imagination and enlarges the heart, creating space for hope to thrive. It enables us to see not only what is but what could be, and to believe that the impossible may one day become possible. The relationship between faith and hope is circular and reinforcing. Faith inspires hope, and hope strengthens faith. When we dare to hope, our faith grows deeper. When we act in hope, our belief in what we cannot see becomes more tangible. Each feeds the other in an endless dance of trust and expectation, moving us forward through every season of life. Faith teaches us that we are never without reason to hope. Even in the darkest times, when hope seems foolish or naive, faith declares that there is light beyond the darkness. It reminds us that no situation is too broken, no heart too shattered, no dream too lost for redemption. It calls us to hold on, to believe, to trust even when our hands tremble and our voices falter. In the end, faith does not promise a life free from sorrow or struggle, but it does promise that hope will not disappoint us, that even in our lowest moments there is a future worth reaching for. Faith inspires a hope that endures, a hope that sings through tears, a hope that dares to dream even after many disappointments. It is the hope that carries us forward, that breathes new life into weary hearts, and that stands firm against the fiercest storms. Faith inspires hope because it anchors our hearts in something greater than ourselves. It connects us to a love that is unchanging, a purpose that is unwavering, and a future that is radiant with promise. It teaches us that hope is not just a fragile wish, but a powerful force, one that can shape lives, transform communities, and change the world. Thus, as long as there is faith, there will always be hope. And as long as there is hope, there will always be a reason to keep moving forward, to keep believing, to keep loving, and to keep living fully, courageously, and joyfully, no matter what lies ahead. Would you also like a shorter summary of this as a backup if you need a briefer version? I can prepare it quickly, of course. Here's a full 1,600 word expansion of faith is built daily, written continuously without headings as you requested. Faith is built daily. It does not emerge fully formed, nor does it remain strong without nourishment and attention. Like a muscle, faith must be exercised, stretched, tested, and strengthened over time. It is not a one-time decision, but a series of countless small decisions made moment by moment, day after day. Each thought we choose, each action we take, and each response to life's challenges either reinforces our faith or diminishes it. Faith is not a static possession. It is a living, growing force that needs daily investment if it is to endure and flourish. Each day presents new opportunities and new challenges that either nurture or erode faith. Some days are easy and believing comes naturally. We feel supported, things go our way, and our hearts overflow with gratitude. Other days are harder on. Expected setbacks occur. Confusion clouds our thinking, and fear whispers doubts into our minds. It is on those harder days that faith is most crucial, and it is precisely in those moments that daily faith building habits prove their worth. The consistency of small, daily acts of faith accumulates, forming a sturdy foundation that can bear the weight of life's storms. Building faith daily begins with intentional focus. Our thoughts are the seeds of our beliefs, and what we dwell on shapes what we trust. Each day, we must make a conscious effort to direct our minds toward truth, hope, and encouragement rather than fear, despair, and cynicism. Reading inspiring words, reflecting on past experiences of provision and grace, and setting our minds on promises rather than problems are small but powerful choices. These daily mental exercises slowly, almost imperceptibly, strengthen the root system of faith within us, enabling it to grow deeper and more resilient. Prayer and meditation are among the most essential daily practices for building faith. They are ways of connecting with the divine, reminding ourselves that we are not alone, and placing our trust in something greater than ourselves. Prayer is not only a request for help, it is an act of surrender, a declaration of reliance, a daily renewal of trust. Meditation allows us to still the noise around us and listen to the quiet voice of wisdom and encouragement that often gets drowned out in the busyness of life. Together, these practices create a daily rhythm of grounding and connection that sustains faith through both calm and chaos. Acts of obedience also build faith daily. Every time we act according to what we believe, even when it is difficult or inconvenient, our faith deepens. Obedience is faith in motion. It turns abstract belief into concrete reality. Small acts of integrity, kindness, generosity, and courage reinforce the reality that living by faith is possible and meaningful. When we choose honesty over deceit, forgiveness over resentment, patience over anger, we are not only doing what is right, we are strengthening our trust that living according to our convictions leads to true life and joy. Another crucial part of building faith daily is remembering past victories. Human nature tends to forget blessings once they are received and to focus instead on present difficulties. Daily faith building requires intentional remembering, calling to mind the times when provision came at just the right moment, when healing followed suffering, when unexpected doors opened, or when strength was given to endure. Reflecting on these moments reaffirms that faith is not misplaced, that even when we could not see the way forward, a way was made. Memory fuels faith, and gratitude turns memory into a living source of strength. Community also plays an irreplaceable role in daily faith building. Faith grows best in an environment of encouragement, support, and shared vision. Being part of a community where faith is valued, spoken of, and lived out provides daily reinforcement. Seeing others walk by faith, hearing their stories, sharing their burdens, and celebrating their victories reminds us that we are not alone on this journey. Faith is contagious. When we see it lived out in others, it inspires us to hold on and keep going. Daily interactions with faith-filled people strengthen our own resolve. Building faith daily also means being willing to wrestle with doubts and questions. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It is the perseverance to believe in the midst of doubt. Questions are not enemies of faith, but opportunities to deepen it. Each day, as we confront uncertainties, we can choose to press in rather than run away. Honest reflection, seeking wisdom, and continuing to trust, even without all the answers, grow a faith that is robust and durable. A faith that has been questioned and tested and still stands is far stronger than a faith that has never been challenged. Patience is essential in the daily work of building faith. Growth is rarely fast or dramatic. Most of the time, it is slow, almost invisible, like the gradual strengthening of a tree's roots beneath the surface. Some days it feels like no progress is being made at all, but the daily disciplines, the prayers, the reflections, the small acts of courage, the moments of trust, they add up. Over time, they create a structure within the soul that can stand firm when major storms come. Building faith daily requires trusting the process, even when results are not immediately visible. Life's challenges themselves are part of the daily faith-building process. Each difficulty faced with trust strengthens faith's foundations. Trials refine and clarify what we believe. They burn away superficial